go ahead.
Vendor credentialing.
Oh boy. For That's the hospital's you're not talking about rep tracks, you're talking about other stuff?
Yeah, rep tracks.
Oh, rep tracks. Yeah.
And and where those companies are going. I'm thinking about it more as a business than I am a burden.
Oh, I like this, Mark. You're thinking
So,
about a new system that's easier to use and has more transparency, maybe?
well, I'm just kind of thinking about why it started. I just, it's kind of like Joe was talking about value analysis and why it's there, how it's used. The more if you understand it, you can manage it. It would be a good word to put it instead of just hating it or fighting it or resenting it. You don't get anywhere by, reacting emotionally to something like this. Um, and I was just curious. I mean, I just think to me, it's a fascinating subject because, I spend most of my time with VinOps, and VinOps does OIG exclusion screening, compliance. It also handles HIPAA, and our focus has been on medical practices, but we're switching to hospitals.
Hmm.
So I'm finding myself strategically talking to companies that are also dealing with non-clinical people in hospitals, the business people, the compliance people, the legal team, general counsel. And I'm just trying to figure out, where I think they might be going, where the synergies might be with what I'm doing, whether I want to partner with them or replace them or kill them.
Well, it's I
Anyway,
I think I think a rep track's like the beta versus VHS argument, where it's probably not the best system, but it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere, and it's be really hard to displace it.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, it's when did it
well,
start? It
I mean,
started in
I
2020?
hear you say that,
Yeah.
but me and Kishore and Danny introduced one of the first EMRs at the Academy in 2001,
Wow.
and it spoke orthopedics real well, and it was very doctor friendly, doctor centric. And a few years later, we're looking around the industry for EMRs, and we're thinking, okay, there's three or four out there. I guess they got first mover status. They're going to own it. They're going to be there forever. 10 years later, nobody that bought an EMR in the early 2000s had the same one.
Hmm.
And you'd think that that would have been something extremely difficult to change or replace, but when you get a faster horse, people switch. So
Yeah,
anyway, I
the
just was thinking
switching
about
costs
it.
are that's really the switching costs are really cheap, and that's
Well, in digital, they're super cheap. There's no inventory. Nobody has to go clean off a shelf, learn a new technique.
yeah. And
You're
most
right.
of the time, the standards come from like regulatory bodies, you know, and but there's no global hospital group that can dictate standards, really. That's
Right.
another.
Even if states have their own rules, but there's 50 different, you know, 50 different sets of state requirements. I don't see, it's hard to see them going. Uh, it's hard for me to see them going anywhere. I mean, they could change. I mean, they have a risk of like getting taken out by state governments, if you ask me. But um, but I don't necessarily think that's likely.
What's the what's Make the case, Mark, for what's not working with RepTracks. Obviously, the device companies hate it, but what's not working for the hospital providers?
Um, if I'm a clinician, what does it do for me?
It Nothing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nothing. This doesn't do anything. 'Cause, you know, if I'm a clinician, what does it do for me? Exactly, exactly. Okay, that's nothing. It's this doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Okay, that's nothing. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. But what could it do for me? What if the State Medical Society took it over and, the cost that's now going to the hospital, or now that the cost that's now going to this, whatever you call RepTrax or vendor made or whatever they might be, goes into the State Medical Society, or what if those costs are shared, or, what if part of the program is tracking clinical trials, or uh, an alert system for a change in a surgical schedule, or an alert system for, anything that would benefit the clinician. And that's my question. I mean, reps hate it. Uh, there's no cost to the hospital. We all watched it get born through some pretty clever salesmanship. In the beginning, there were kickbacks to the hospital. That's all kind of gone away because, you know, of the Affordable Care Act and anti-kickback and so forth and so on. So they don't, the only thing they get at, the main thing that they get out of it is that they can finally, kind of like value analysis, control reps ingress and egress.
Yeah, it's sort of a function that they wanted to have that they can conveniently sort of just outsource the function to a third party.
Or
They can sleep easy, sort of knowing that the function is taken care of, and they don't have to do anything.
Exactly. Back when it was like a public hospital, Hillburton Hospital, they would tell reps, you can't go sell it to this doctor, and rep would say, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
It's a public hospital. I can walk anywhere I want, blah, blah, blah. Well, now, because of this system, they can actually tell you, you can't come in my hospital without doing all this and paying $400 a year. Kill me. And if you screw up, they can ban you easily by taking you off the system. They finally almost found a way to control it. And I just, in the beginning, they disguised it under safety and sexual harassment and all this other stuff. It's like,
bioburdens. Yes, yes.
yeah, infection control, sterile. I mean, it was all bullshit.
Yeah. So I think what happened was I just looked it up. So RepTrex was started in 2006 by Peter Sheehan. Yeah. Um, but it started when surgeons started losing control. They started losing their voice. They started becoming more and more employees, and we're not going to let you have your friend in the operating room if, they're not really helping things, and they're upselling the hospital these new systems that we don't even want. We don't want that guy in the operating room. I think that's probably a coincidence that it started when physicians started losing control on product choice.
I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's like,
Correlation.
yeah, I think it's correlated that the hospitals, it's impossible to know this for sure, but the hospitals probably never liked the practice. They always, if they could have gotten their way in 1998, they would have, done something about the reps, but they felt the need to, this is general stereotypes, but the surgeons or the clinicians liked the reps, and the hospitals were vested in keeping the clinicians satisfied or happy. The hospital viewed the clinicians as, their customers, basically. When the clinician has the ability to sort of get upset and say, I'm taking my patients to the facility across the street, the hospital has a great interest in keeping the clinicians happy. When the hospital turns those clinicians into employees, maybe they're special employees, maybe they sort of are, treated a little bit differently or a little bit better than your average, whomever around there. But then the hospital, it's, the loss of the clinician's voice and importance in this it's completely sort of inversely proportional to the rise of the hospital's influence. And once they don't have to worry too much about the clinicians being their customers and they're more their employees, they can start doing sort of whatever they want.
Yeah. Can control the comings and goings of device people. That makes sense.
Do you think this coincided at all with the prevalence of hospital contracts, like big ticket contracts, and RepTrex became an excuse to keep out new innovative companies when you were already going to be on contract with ZB and would have been just Zimmer at the time. It just became an excuse or a barrier of entry.
I don't think it's coordinated or conspiratorial, but I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it sort of fed into each other now that you mentioned that. Um, I did research in 1999 on the numbers of orthopedic practices that were independent versus that were hospital owned or government owned. 24% of all orthopedic practices in 1999 were actually solo practices, not private, but solo.
Yeah.
Okay. The vast majority were private. And you see how fast forward, I think it's now like 70% of them are either hospital owned or private equity owned. The actual private practice is now very much a minority. And I'm not sure when I started saying this at dinner to doctors, but I remember as long, it might have been even the 80s or the 90s, the hospital's not your friend. Don't ever forget that. Because they're really not. I mean, they have a symbiotic relationship, but they tried to figure out ways to control what doctors were using for a long, long time. And now since they're an employee, most of them, they can do that through contracts, through vendor contracts. Now they control their reps too, which they never liked reps anyway. I mean, I kind of have a little bit of a unique experience in that the summer I graduated high school, I became a scrub tech because my dad was chairman. And there was not one, the next 2 summers in which I scrubbed on trauma and everything else, there was never a rep. I never saw one rep in the operating room. The only rep I saw was the Codman rep selling instruments in the break room. You fast forward to when I get out of the Army, and my first arthroscopy, the doc asked me to scrub, and that was shocking to the crew, but it wasn't that uncommon, in the early '80s. Now you can't even open your operating room on Monday morning without reps because they're the only ones that know where the instruments and the inventory is. And they work, quote, for free, but not really.
Well,
Anyway,
also, if you go that far back in the early 80s, I went to my first case in like 85, and I was surprised to learn that the hospitals just bought all the instruments and they had them right there. They bought all the implants. We got 27 sizes of
Yeah.
knee.
You like literally sold someone a total hip system. Like
Yeah,
you sold them
exactly.
everything. Like here's the implants, here's the instruments, here's everything.
You didn't need a rep because everything was right there, and the nurses could
Yeah.
read the labels. And it only became the reps became more needed when everything went to consignment.
Yeah. Well, because if it's on consignment, you don't care if the inventory gets messed up.
Right,
If you're
exactly.
the hospital, I was on a project with J&J a couple years ago, and we were working on like logistics stuff. It was a special project, and these VPs of logistics and procurement actually would joke, "We've got over $1 billion of inventory in the marketplace, and we have no idea where it is."
Oh,
Like that's
oh,
not funny. That's not funny, guys.
it's not funny. Hey, Raymond's got his hand up and he's driving, or maybe he's a passenger.
Yes, passenger, and hopefully the connection's good. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, good. So interesting conversation, and I'm wondering if, in fact, this last comment about scrubbing, if this thought might be helpful in this discussion. And I'm assuming it's still true, but if you go over to Europe, especially Germany, it's 180 degrees opposite. The reps there are actually expected to scrub. That's part of the task. And so instead of being put in paper scrubs, with terrible rep tracks, whatever requirements, there is part of the value that a rep provides is literally scrubbing and assisting the doctor. And it's mainly
Oh, went through tunnel.
driven by
We're losing you now, Raymond. We're losing you.
But Raymond's right.
Did you hear
Um,
the
I still work with European companies, and when I go over there, the regional rep or whomever is very often scrubbing, helping the back table, helping the Mayo, helping the doctor. If this goes next, whatever. It's a different relationship.
Yeah.
yeah,
The product.
I don't know if it'll help. Go ahead.
Who makes the product choice decision in Europe?
I'm pretty sure the surgeon, but again, it's been a while since I've been over there.
There's an extensive tender process though.
Okay.
Um, Most often what I've seen is it's pretty equivalent to like multi-vendor, what we would think of as like multi-vendor contracts that are administered not by a health system, administered by depends on the country, but most often sort of a provincial level type of or even maybe like a sub-provincial level type of setup.
So it's like Kaiser Permanente putting it out for bids and everybody presents their stuff.
I mean, there's exceptions all over the place, but like that's what I've seen the most. But if like Kaiser Permanente was not Kaiser Permanente, it was like the state of Alabama or something like that.
Interesting.
So what if in your new business model, you hire a bunch of scrub techs who essentially represent the company, but what you're providing the hospital is free scrub tech services. And so you have a scrub tech, but he's also in there to try to sell.
Has anybody ever tried that?
Just because it's never been done before doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
It's true. I don't know how that would work.
Well, I mean, it's there are scrub techs that do first assist.
Mm-hmm.
I know the rules and regulations are, they are what they are. I'm not sure what they are currently. But that's an interesting idea. Anyway, I'm just curious because my VinOps company, we do compliance for we have over 1,000 active medical practices that use us. And we just signed an agreement with a company called OR Tracks to do their OIG exclusion screening. And they are essentially a vendor RepTrax company. And, everybody in my organization is kind of chomping at the bit to take that service to some of their surgery center clients, because their core software is one that has alert systems. Whenever there's a change in the surgical schedule, it alerts the surgeon, the rep, and the OR all simultaneously. And it's an active system so that you have to answer. If you don't answer, it bings you again. And any of us that's ever been in the surgical world, and I think all of us have known what it's like to get that phone call at 7:28. Hey, who's covering my case? And you go, oh, shit. What do you mean?
My question about that, Mark, about what's it called? OR Tracks?
Yeah, OR Tracks.
Is what feeds the system? I mean, every hospital's got a different scheduling system. So how in the world do you feed the OR Tracks system an update notification? Like it's got to be an API or something, and that's
They do they have to coordinate with Epic or Cerner or whoever is in the hospital EHR system, which very often that's where the surgery schedule is kept. But that's that's a simple HL7 or fire, and that's not that hard to do.
Okay.
I think there's
And
room, like to what you're describing, Mark, to like displace existing credentialing systems by offering sort of more services in addition. But I think that like the core services are staying. Like I don't think they're like I don't think
Right.
it's hard for me to envision 5 years or 10 years from now where it's like, remember that crazy time when we used to do vendor credentialing and now we just don't? Like I don't see that world
I agree with you. I
um
agree with you. Yeah,
happening. But there's room to like bolt on like in a way that actually could be at least like semi interesting to the actual paying customer. I mean, the paying customer is over a barrel with these systems, like because you just have to you just have to pay. I mean, they keep raising the prices, people keep complaining, and nothing changes, and it's probably going to keep going like that until
oh
they
yeah,
hit
I agree.
some price in the future that is not palatable. But there's ways to like have a better version of these things that is like better integrated with the OR, has different ways for who knows messaging, or I'm sure there are definitely features that like you could take communication platforms that already exist and add on the vendor credentialing part, and you have a more comprehensive system for sure.
I think one thing that would be needed would be like a Yelp kind of thing, a reputation score. I think it'd be really cool for reps, and I don't know if this would be RepTrax Plus or a brand new system, but you know, somebody goes in the operating room, they're in the system and they get a score. This guy was useless, we give him a 1 out of 10, or this guy was awesome. He found help the scrub tech find an instrument, we give him an 8 out of 10. And I mean, it's just like Uber drivers. Everything now has got a reputation score.
Uh,
We make service decisions every day based on reputation scores, whether we like it or not. You go to Amazon and you look at the consumer reviews. I think that would be helpful. I don't know how it would work, but I don't know who would provide the feedback. And it would be voluntary, obviously. And what do you guys think about that?
it's pretty intriguing, actually.
It would weed out the bad. I mean, everybody would be on their best behavior. They want to get a 5 out of 5 score, like your Uber driver.
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of this rep that used to work for me that one time after a case, the surgeon called me and he said, the interior cut of a total knee, and Jim's over there in the corner with his back to the case, and he says, "So Jim, get ready to make the cut. How's it look?" And he's swinging, and Jim says, "Looks good, Doc."
Oh, geez.
He's not even looking.
Ah,
I know it sounds terrible. And
that's-
fortunately, the guy had a good sense of humor and he didn't really need a rep to tell him the cut was good.
yeah, it's just the ego thing.
But I don't think he would have gotten a good score, Tiger.
No, he wouldn't have. And that it would have weeded. And the companies, the distributors and the
Uh,
medical device companies want to know who's good and not good in the OR. I mean, the main thing is sales, right? But I don't know. That seems like a reputation score would be a step up.
Well, if you're going to do that, you might as well add a tip function, 15%, 18%, 20, 25, automatically goes to the purchasing agent.
Yeah.
And they're not HCPs, so that doesn't have to get reported.
Oh boy.
I,
Interesting.
I tell
No,
you,
the other way around. The company should get the tip. The
Oh
rep.
gosh.
Come on.
So another conversation that's been batting around, and I know we'll enjoy this, is I've had multiple conversations in the last month of people that have just, when it comes to social media marketing, email marketing, text marketing, trying to build customer bases, have just thrown in the towel, kind of figuratively speaking, and basically accepted the fact that if one human being is not talking to another, nothing's ever going to happen. And I guess you could say that about recruiting too.
Yeah, so back when COVID happened, I did some digital marketing consulting for a few small companies in ortho, and they wanted the problem they have is they want an instant ROI. They want to say, okay, we're going to spend this much on Google ads, or Facebook ads, or whatever, and I'm going to get, 10 new customers in like a month. And they just, and, it doesn't work like that. It's, oh,
No,
and
I think it's expectations sometimes of like most of the time this is at least my opinion, like these digital marketing services, they do really good at potentially like shortening the sales cycle, or they can do really good at like introducing things and staying top of mind and like acclimating customers to ideas. But they're not like if you expect them to sort of close for you or take you all the way through from like never heard of this product before to like a routine user of said product, that's not going to happen. But what they can do, it's not like they can eliminate reps, but they should, in theory, like make sales forces more efficient and like maybe thin them out over over time. It's like you can, if you don't have to constantly, like if it takes, this is a like a fake example, but if it takes 7 interactions or 7 exposures to a certain product before there's a buying decision, like you can employ an appropriate number of people physically to like do interactions 1 through 6 physically, and then close on interaction 7. I know it's not this simple. Or you can like sort of use these digital tools to expose people to the product for times number 1 through 6, and then have a person come in sort of at exposure number 7 and close. And in theory, you should need less people if they're sort of spend more of their time closing. But I think there's an expectation of like, great, we'll do all these digital marketing things, and then like we don't need reps, or we can get rid of our sales force, or something like that. It just doesn't like it's like background for it's like yeah, it's like this is like very normal in regular things. Think about like, I don't know, how we buy cars or something like that. Like you see stuff on commercials 20 times. You see stuff driving around all the time. It's not like you'd never hear of a car the first time because a car dealer calls your house and then calls your house 6 more times. Like, and then on the 7th time, you're like, now I'll buy. It doesn't work like that with most things. So I
yeah,
think it's an
there's,
expectations mismatch.
yeah, I think you're right. It's, you got to see the surgeon's got to see the product at a medical show. He's got to see that another surgeon's interested in using it and having good results. He's got to see maybe a white paper, and then eventually a knowledgeable rep he asks for or gets sent a knowledgeable rep. But you're right. You got to see it in multiple places. Surgeons like to see somebody else using something before. Nobody wants to be first.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I found.
Mhm.
Why do all of us uh, suck at lead generation? I mean, how many companies really have a vigorous, productive lead generation service that really gives leads to dealers? I mean, when I've tried a couple of different times on different startups to build what I used to call hunter-killer teams. The hunter would be the lead generation rep, there at the office, at the home office, calling doctors. The killer would be the guy that takes the lead and makes the phone call, tries to set up an appointment. And I could never really get it off. I could never get buy-in on that. I thought it would work because it works in battle. Anyway,
Yeah,
these are age-old questions that
yeah,
rattle
it's still,
around in my
I
head.
think it's still a reputation or a trust kind of environment, with reps and surgeons,
Yeah.
and it's also surgery is different. Orthopedic surgery is different than other surgery because you have to touch it, feel it. There's a tactile feedback um, training. Everything goes to cadaver lab training before the first use, usually. Um, I don't know. Raymond's got a question or comment.
Yes, if I could go back to the social media aspect of the conversation. And I'll put myself out there, and I don't know how many people are on this call, but I would welcome feedback if you're willing, any of y'all, to give me feedback on how Nova Approach Spine, my company, is using social media. Let me think. About a year and a half ago, we enlisted support from a former colleague of mine when I used to work at Exactech. She's a marketing communications person who I personally like, but I need outside opinions on the nature of the kind of content that we're creating. And I mean, I got thick skin. If you don't like it, let me know. Or if you think it's could be, altered, or if you think, hey, I'm making unsubstantiated claims or anything like that, we try not to. But I would welcome it if anybody else wants me to give them feedback on their stuff. To me, that would be a benefit of this group to, privately, communicate to each other feedback if that's of use to anybody. But I would welcome it. And
what
I'm
is your
talking about
website?
Yeah, it's in the chat, Mark. I put it in the chat. Nova Approach Spine.
Yeah. So really, it's the LinkedIn, not so much our website. I mean, you could comment on our website too, but I'm really referring to the posts that we make on LinkedIn. That to me is more of our awareness campaign to reps and distributors. That's mainly our audience, secondarily surgeons, but mainly it's distributors and reps is our intended audience.
Okay, so I can give you feedback right now.
Please.
I'm looking at so I do a lot of social media stuff for myself, so and I kind of see what works and doesn't work. I think the number one problem that medical device companies have is they don't post enough. So you should be posting probably 5 times a day on LinkedIn.
Wow.
That's the number one thing. And it's not because, and nobody sees it. So as you guys know, I write articles every day for almost 20 years. And I have people that call me up and they say, hey, Tiger, I just read your article today. And I said, which one was that? And they tell me, I said, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, I wrote that 5 years ago. And I've reposted it probably 200 times, and you just saw it. And that tells me nobody sees anything. And so the only answer is you just have to you got to post and repost and change it, make it longer, make it shorter, add an image. You just got to post like crazy. That's the number one thing. Quantity works, quality does not work. The second thing is on LinkedIn, videos do really well. Videos the LinkedIn algorithm likes videos a lot, so they get pushed to more people.
Really?
Most people don't know this, but if you post on LinkedIn, if you go right now and post on LinkedIn, it sends it out to about 10% of your number one contacts, and then it just stops. So 90% of your number one contacts never see it. And then if the algorithm sees if people are liking it and commenting and sharing, then it goes to like 50% of your number one contacts. And then if you still have some traction, eventually goes to 100% of your, but LinkedIn doesn't even show it to everybody. When you post, you think it's going out to everybody. It's not.
Really?
Yeah. It's because the algorithms are so smart. They don't want the LinkedIns of the world want the best stuff at the top of the feed. And so they use the algorithms to figure out what the best stuff is. So those are the first two things, quantity, and use video as much as you can.
So if you've got like 11 or 12,000 followers like I do, and I post something, how many of them, not that many are going to even see it, right?
Well,
Not
1,000,
initially.
not initially. 1,000 are going to see it if they just happen to be on LinkedIn at that moment.
That moment. Okay.
Yeah. But it's like a river going by, and so 5 minutes later, it's way downstream. That your posting's gone.
They send it out to like a percentage of your contacts and then like wait an hour sort of and like see like did people engage with that? And by engage, it can mean a million different things. It could be the thumbs up like button, it could be commenting, and then sort of like based on what happens in that first hour, then they choose like, okay, well this seems to be getting good traction. Let's sort of spread it out to a wider audience or like a narrower audience or a wider audience, like based on like how it goes. And if it keeps getting good engagement, they keep widening the reach further and further and further.
Exactly. Well said. So that's the reason the algorithm is against it's designed to be against us all unless you have something compelling. So that's why you have to just the third thing that companies don't do is trial and error. So I would, if you're going to do a post, write the post 5 different ways and send it out 5 different ways. Send it out as a text, send it out as an image, send it out as a video, send it out short form, long form, and then you get to watch, within 24 hours. Well, wow, that one worked way better than the other 4. So I'm going to do more of that. It's instant metrics.
So for our business, is LinkedIn is by far the best, correct?
I think LinkedIn it depends on who your
B2B.
customers are.
Yeah, it depends on who you're trying to
B2B.
reach.
If you want
B2B.
hospitals, surgeons, and device companies, I think LinkedIn's the best. Yeah,
B2B, yeah, not B2C.
right. But YouTube, I'm a big fan of YouTube. I mean, it's the thing about YouTube, if surgeon watches your thing, then it's going to recommend it again to the surgeon. And LinkedIn doesn't do that. See, LinkedIn is a river. Once the river goes down, it's gone forever, right? Whereas YouTube, it's gonna say, "Hey, Dr. Maloney, you liked that last Nova Approach video that you watched last week. Nova Approach they just added a new surgical technique. You may be interested in this." It's like Netflix. So that's powerful.
How do you use YouTube?
Well, I just throw everything on YouTube. I mean,
Oh, okay.
and I just see what sticks. All the BoneChat discussions go on YouTube, and I cut it into small snippets sometimes. And I don't know, the YouTube, you really want to get subscribers. It's hard to get subscribers on YouTube when you're in the medical device world, but I started with 0. I've got about 300 subscribers now, and every time a new posting goes up, those subscribers get a notification.
Oh, okay. Huh. YouTube, not Vimeo.
Vimeo is YouTube it's available to the whole world. There's billions of users. It's part of
Yeah.
Google. It's connected to the Google search engine too, which makes it super powerful.
YouTube itself is like the second or third largest search engine in the world.
And it's close to Netflix now on the number of hours people watch.
Really?
Yeah,
If any of you have elementary school age kids, you'll know how much time they try to spend on YouTube.
The other thing about YouTube that's unique is you can find your tribe. So whatever subspecialty you're into, and I always make a joke that if you're into midget wrestling and you watch midget wrestling on YouTube, it's going to recommend more midget wrestling, and you're going to be hanging out with 1,000 people in the world that just love midget wrestling, and you find your tribe really fast. Where LinkedIn you can't do that. It's really hard. Too much noise. The other thing, Raymond, if you're going to go YouTube, you have to be very specific. The smaller the niche, the better chance you have. So if you just say we're a spine device company, that's not going to work. if you're gonna, I don't know what your brand pitch is. I remember you start off with open orifice surgery. If you start off with something really specific like that, open orifice surgery, then wow, you're going to find people that are crazy. They're searching for open orifice surgery, and they're going to find you. But if you're a spine device company and they're searching for open orifice surgery, they'll never find you. So you have to be specific. You have to be very nichey in YouTube.
Hmm. That's a good tip. You have to be niche rich.
Niche rich. There's more specific. That's why midget wrestling works, but spinal cage doesn't work.
I'm very careful about what I watch on YouTube because I don't want to open up YouTube and all of a sudden all I see are midget wrestlers and everybody knows that
Yeah.
subscribe.
Yeah, it'll follow you. It'll take you a year to shed that off of your algorithm.
Oh my God. I watched this Cracker Barrel commercial with Sydney Sweeney. And for the next week, my YouTube was like, oh, that's not me. I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
True. The algorithms are so good. But we can use, as medical device people, we can use the algorithms to our advantage by picking a niche, by being really clear messaging, by just doing it over and over and over again. Yeah, Raymond, I'll send you the article. I wrote an article on the top 10 things that ortho spine startup should do in digital marketing. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please copy me too.
Yeah, okay. We'll
I'd love
do.
to see that.
Hey,
I emailed you before the call all the summary of bullet points from Joe Colonna's talk as well as the complete transcript.
That how good was that? I mean, that was one of the best speakers we've ever had. I mean, wow. Just to look behind the curtain and see how giant hospital business thinks, that was enlightening to me.
I thought it was frightening, but it was enlightening too.
It was enlightening.
I met with his counterpart Tuesday morning for another hospital system. And, without telling him that Joe had come on and kind of let us look behind the curtain, I've said a couple of things, and he very much echoed much of what Joe said. And he did say this year that their hospital system is having to do more with less. He said 2024 was very good. 2025 is not nearly as, reimbursement wise, as good.
Yeah, the message was loud and clear. If you're a device company, you have to help the hospital save money or make more money or reduce labor or something, or they're not even going to look at your thing.
Well, since the advent of the vendor credentialing program, I can't tell you how many dealers and reps I've heard say that my days of helping the hospital with a discount are over. They're so pissed off having to pay that $400 or $500 a year that they don't feel like they want to help the hospital. They have, like Joe was talking about, you got to get over that. You got to figure out if you want your product in that hospital, you got to figure out a way to, be on the same team.
Yeah, it's not if you have an adversarial relationship, the hospital is just going to stiff arm you. You have to help them solve their problems.
You're not going to win that battle.
Yeah. Boy, that was really good. Joe was really good. Copeland called me after and he said I was kind of I was ready to argue with him. He said I was all set up, ready to argue. But Joe said everything right. He said he was like, it was perfect, you know.
He never went to college.
Yes, good for him.
He enlisted in the Navy out of high school. And he has climbed to the top of where he is. I mean, just for experiential learning and credentialing and doing, doing the right thing.
There's a lot of people that never went to college that are, the most famous story from Memphis is Ronnie Pickard, who basically made Danik what it was. He was the first real CEO of Danik. And he started off, he never went past the eighth grade. He was mowing the lawn at Richards Medical, and he talked himself into getting a job in the warehouse with no high school degree. And then within about 10 years, he was director of operations. And then he became the president of Smith and Nephew. And then he quit and became the CEO of Danik, and the rest is history. Ronnie Pickard was pretty amazing guy, and he just read books. He just read business books. Like when I may be boring you guys, but what he did, he was all about speed. So when he was at Danik, he had a rule. This is back in landlines before there were cell phones. He said, if the phone rings, you have to answer it within one ring or you're fired. That was one of his rules.
Damn.
I mean, man, people ran to the phone, Another thing he did was, this is back in the late 80s, early 90s, a surgeon would come into the Danik, meet with the engineers, and they had a crappy 3D printed plastic like thing, like a microwave. And while the surgeon was taking a tour, the engineers would print the surgeon's idea in a 3D plastic. And Ronnie would meet him at the front door before they went to the airport. He would hand him the prototype and say, "Doctor, is this what you were telling us about this morning? Let us know when you want this in titanium. We can make it for you in titanium." I mean, that was 35 years ago.
Wow.
I mean, that surgeon they walked away, they were in the airplane holding this thing. They're going, wow, if I'm going to develop any products, I need to work with Danik. These guys are fast.
So the question I asked the guy from the other hospital system was the same one I asked Joe when I first sat down with him. I said, what formative experience in your early life made you ambitious and made you hardened you, or, made you ambitious? So he gave me an answer I never expected. Joe had a good answer too. So first thing they always, when you ask that question, they always say, well, tell me yours. And I say, well, I dropped out of college when I was 19 to join the Army because I didn't want to miss the war. And my first week at Fort Knox, I was on KP in the winter outside scrubbing pots and pans, and I swore I would never be on the bottom of any organization again. So I said, that was my experience. So this guy told me, he said, I grew up in Flint, Michigan. He said, I graduated high school in 1981. Life was not good in Flint. I had an interview, and I was the top candidate for a 3-year electrical apprenticeship with an automaker. I didn't get the job because the HR said they had to hire either a female or a minority, and I couldn't do it. He said, that was not the formative experience. He said, I just took that with a grain of salt. It was wrong time, wrong place. It didn't ruin me. I went home and told my dad, who suffered from OCD. He kicked me out of the house that day.
Wow.
Because of that. I lived in my car for a year and a half. Now, this guy's a senior VP of a 25 hospital chain. He said, I lived in my car going to community college for a year and a half. I didn't even have enough money to buy gas for the heater in the Michigan winter. He said, that experience gave me ambition. I said, damn. I love that question. You never know what you're going to hear. That's a good story.
It's a really good story. Wow.
At another time, I'd love to ask you guys that.
We'll go around the room next time. Did you
Hey,
guys?
Tiger,
Yeah.
um, can you explain? I could not understand. I read the article that you wrote today about this deal just like got past me. I didn't see this happening. Between
Osteocentric.
yeah, can you explain in like
Yeah,
what is going on?
the way I understand it, so Integrum is a what are they, Finnish or Swedish?
Yeah, it's a Swedish company that makes like a prostate, an internal
Osteo
prostate, like a
It's like an
integration.
yeah,
implant prosthetic hybrid.
yeah, like you
Yep.
put you anchor it into the bone of the remaining portion of the limb, and then there's like an attachment piece. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I got to show you this if I can find it here.
but they were going to get bought, right?
So Osteocentric, which is made a tender offer,
Uh-huh.
and basically paying them 10 times sales. Yeah, I'm going to show you this chart here. This is the anatomy of a botched acquisition. Look at
Yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah,
So they offered him $100 million, and this company's only doing 10 or 20 million a year, and they're losing money, they're bleeding, and the mistake they made was, I don't know if it was osteocentric or the Integrum side said you have to have a 90% shareholder
yeah,
vote in order to
yeah.
get it. And they only got 65%.
But then there's a dispute, right? Of like
There is a dispute, which I don't understand exactly. This thing's dead, the way I understand it. It's completely dead. Um, and I don't know if it's Swedish shenanigans or I don't know what happened, but it's gone. I mean, look at this. That's the craziest stock chart you'll ever see.
it
So
sounded like when I read the article and like I tried to do my own research, like they talked about how like the exact number of shares that the founder owns is like in dispute because like some of them are owned by him as a like an individual, some of them are like wrapped up in some other business, and then like that one of those businesses like merged into another business, and like they never kept the paper clean in terms of like the
just
cap table got kind of a little messy over time, and like they didn't actually even know, which is I mean this is a publicly traded company. The cap table should be like quite, it can be long, but it should be clean. And um, it just wasn't like organized properly. And that, but like it also seems like they might try to go to, and I don't think this will get anywhere, but they might try to go to like the Swedish financial authorities and like say like, hey, this is like, you know, like this is we were actually correct here. We're over the 90% threshold, like, and they're backing out now. And they sort of can't, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. It's over my pay grade, but and there may be some international M&A, things that the government has rules for. I have no idea. But I think it's a good thing for Integrum actually because it shows their business is worth 100 million legitimately,
Yeah, it does. It puts an anchor price out there that
anchor price. And it also, I'm not a big fan of Osteocentric. I don't know how much you know about the company. They have a new thread. The technology is awesome. They have a thread that bites into bone like crazy
hmm
and easy to take out. It's just
hmm
it's a better thread. It can be used in spine, sports, everywhere. The problem has been focus. They haven't really, they tried to go after the trauma market first, and then they tried to boil the ocean
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and make their own implants, and now they finally got smart and they're just licensing it to everybody.
hmm
But I didn't see how buying, you know, that other company was going to do anything for them. It's a really small market, right? And there's a lot of military and there's connections.
Yeah.
Not just a
Yeah,
small
yeah,
market,
yeah.
it's a different market.
It's
It's a
different.
different market. And like, and I don't, Kyle can speak better than this than I can. I don't think fixation of those like external prostheses, I don't think that's the issue. Infection is the issue with those. Like when you have something going through the skin, infection is going to be the issue. I don't think that's basically like a one rod that goes up into
Not
the
loose.
bone.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think loosening is the issue with those, that like some better thread is like gonna meaningfully improve those. My understanding always was that like they, because I used to be in a business involved with in this space, and they always had a tough time explaining to regulators that like, yes, like this is so much better than the traditional stump prosthesis, that basically you should let some infections happen, that like basically it's still preferable to have a certain percentage of these get infected because it's so superior, and not all infections are exactly the same, and like, but infection, because there's literally like a rod, one end of it is in the bone, the other end of it is outside exposed through the skin, that infection is the issue, not fixation.
Yeah, and it solves the socket problem. That's the socket problem. If you just put a plastic thing around skin, that's
Yeah,
those people have sores
yeah,
for
yeah.
it's yeah, it's a terrible thing. Solves the socket problem. I agree. I
That was
think
my first thought. Was I didn't understand the fit of like, why, what do these guys want with, like, what are they spending $100 million on this very cool device, but like I didn't at least initially see the fit.
I didn't see the fit, but it doesn't surprise me because osteocentrics kind of they're scatterbrained a little bit. I mean, they're going for dental and spine and SI fusion. They're trying to license their thread to everybody in the world. Um, yeah, I don't get it. They're not an implant company, really. So we have the same thoughts, Patrick.
Mhm.
That was kind of interesting. And you
Sorry, I
guys,
gotta jump. Good to
oh yeah,
see
thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
Mark.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, it's been an hour. Thanks, guys. We'll do next week. I think it's open too. Unless throw out a speaker if you have another speaker. Joe Colonna was awesome. So wow, do that again.
Thanks, man.
Okay, thanks.
See you guys.